Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Recovery Bank's Community Education Series. We have been running our series on Thursday evening for the last several months. We have broadcast on Facebook Live. For a while we were also doing Zoom. I'm not sure if we're still doing Zoom or not, but and then some of our past episodes we are now posting on the Recovery Bank YouTube website. So our series has been, of course, about resources in our community to assist individuals initiating recovery or people who have been in recovery for a while or family members. We've had a great response, and we appreciate your interest. For those of you that don't know, the Recovery Bank is a peer-to-peer community resource center. We're located at 120 Wyoming Avenue in Scranton, and we provide a wide range of recovery resources. Primarily, since reopening after COVID restrictions were removed, we've been offering recovery coaching with our certified recovery specialists on a daily basis by appointment only. The effort on behalf of our recovery coaches would be to connect people who are new to recovery with individuals in our community who have experienced some success in recovery, and also to help people in recovery, early recovery, to navigate the recovery resources in our community. In addition to recovery coaching, we try to do a wide and varied series of programming, everything from art to yoga to recovery skills, big book meetings. We do a NA meeting, AA meetings, smart recovery. We do all recovery meetings, small men's recovery groups, women's groups, and we actually have a gardening class and a cooking class now. So we're really trying to cover a lot between recovery skills and life skills. So we're thrilled to be here. We're here as a result of some wonderful funding resources, not the least of which is the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania Department of Drug and Alcohol Programs, Community Care Behavioral Health, the Robert Spitz Foundation, the Commonwealth Tax Credit Program, and the Lackawanna County District Attorney's Office. Tonight for our program with me is my friend and longtime colleague, John Knowles, who has been a regular presenter on our community education program, and also with us, and John will introduce Amy Durham, who is the new CEO at Brookdale. John, I'll turn it over to you.
Well, thanks, Frank, and thank you so much for having us here. Brookdale's really excited to support all the good work that goes on down here at the Recovery Bank. For those of you who don't know, Brookdale is a 110-bed facility located in Scott Run, Pennsylvania. We were formerly a resort that was converted and repurposed to be a drug and alcohol treatment center. We're coming up on 2 years in August, and we have had some great success. We have a 34-bed detox and a 76-bed rehab. Our rehab portion is in cabins. We have 2 people to a cabin, and we have some specialized programming for first responders and what we call a signature program for individuals looking for a little bit more intense services and of high net worth. And we have just a great property with a lake. We have a full gym. We really believe in body, mind, spirit, that once we get you physically well, mentally well, then emotional and spiritual wellness is going to be important. So we have some great resources. Summertime schedule is coming up, which is we're real excited about because we get to use the property that much more. We have 100 acres there. But like anything, it's all about the people, and we have some of the finest people, I believe, in the industry working with us. I've been at this for 35 years. We have our clinical director 26 years, our nursing director 12 years, 35 years for our medical director. Experienced people providing high quality care. We believe we're a premier facility, and we have premier people with us. So that's our 30-second commercial. Hopefully I covered all the bases and did everything right. We are real excited tonight to introduce to you Amy Durham, who is our new Chief Executive Officer. we're very blessed to have Amy with us. She comes to us from Caring Foundation, and I won't steal all of her thunder. I'll let her introduce herself because she does such a wonderful job, but I think really brings a strong presence in terms of addiction treatment experience and administration, and will really benefit those of us in northeastern Pennsylvania significantly. So we're thrilled to have you here. Very blessed, and I'll let you introduce yourself, and then we have a little question and answer thing we'll go through about, your thoughts on where things are at in the treatment world. And Amy Durham.
Thank you. Again, my name is Amy Durham. I'm the Chief Executive Officer at Brookdale Premier Addiction Recovery, and I'm very excited to be here tonight. As John said, I'm from Care and Treatment Centers. I was a patient there back in 2012, started working for them in 2014, and kind of just climbed the ladder and found myself a treatment professional. My background is in education. I was a teacher and principal for many years, and I found that my skills are very transferable in this field. It's very similar work, and I'm delighted to be here tonight. Thank you.
Great. Well, one of the first questions that we had, Amy, was we had canvassed some folks ahead of time, and we don't always get a chance to sit down with leaders in the field, and we certainly are thrilled that you're here with us. What can you tell us about how things are going during the pandemic here? What has changed, or how do you see things changing for chemically dependent people or services once that we're in the pandemic? And certainly, Frank, if you have thoughts on that too, we'd love to hear your thoughts.
Well, I would say everything's changed. We had to pivot very quickly because people still needed access to addiction treatment. And, we jumped right on and followed CDC guidelines and did everything that we could to keep our patients safe and staff and make sure that we were adhering to best practices. And it's been a challenge, but I think we've done a remarkable job at Brookdale, kind of rising to the occasion and hurdling over some of those challenges. We have 2 testing machines on site, so we test people right when they come in. And, the reality is wearing a mask and being socially distant can be a challenge in a therapeutic environment, but we've persevered. We adapted, we overcame, and I think we're on the tail end of that now, and we're still doing really great care, great quality treatment, but we just have to continue to adhere to some of the guidelines to keep people safe.
John, similarly, we at the Recovery Bank, coming out of the real strict COVID restrictions where we, like so many other places, were shut down, when we reopened in June of 2020, we implemented very strict COVID protocols. So we have front desk people who are simply responsible to take temperatures, take contact information, enforce our mask policy and social distancing, and take care of cleaning the place somewhat obsessively. But all of that has helped us kind of move forward. We equipped all of our office space and rooms where we conduct small group meetings with plexiglass screens, which has helped with the communication. And there, of course, has been such a need for in-person contact. Alcoholism and addiction, as you know, is characterized by isolation, and so pandemic, was isolation squared, and we realized that it was going to be important for us to have that in-person contact, and so our staff here, our CRS staff, Certified Recovery Specialist staff, pulled together. We've been conducting in-person recovery coaching every day and small group meetings, again, just to help try to combat that isolation that came and intensified with the pandemic. So now that most of the staff has been vaccinated and many of our participants are, we're feeling a little more encouraged, but still very strict about our COVID protocols.
Yeah, and I think the overall concern certainly is because person-to-person contact fellowship is such a big part of recovery, and being able to have that person, that interpersonal experience, that person-to-person experience is so essential. It's interesting. Can I back up a little bit, Amy? One of my questions was that we had was the person who influenced you to get. We see a lot of CRSs down here. I see a lot of people looking to get in the field, and I'm always intrigued when I see folks, and it's a question I always like to ask is, who was it that inspired you to get involved in the field, and what mentors or what folks have you had that have allowed you to thrive in a pretty competitive market, in a very male-dominated market, and you've been able to do that. So maybe you could share that with us.
Sure. When I got out of treatment, I wasn't really sure what I was going to do next. And I had a very special relationship with the chief clinical officer at Caron and stayed connected to the organization, to him. And, wasn't really working right away, was going to just do a recovery job and did that for a while. And an opening came up and he encouraged me to apply. And it was just a simple matter of me taking direction in somebody else's suggestions. And he's certainly one of the biggest influences. His name is Mike Early. He was the chief clinical officer at Caron for a long time, came from Hazelden Betty Ford. And, he just took a special interest in me. And he thought it would be good for not just my recovery, but for my humility to take an entry-level position. And that's how it started for me as an administrator in the Caron DC office, and started working with the regional vice president and members of the board. And I have to say that they raised me. They raised me, and I have had the opportunity to really stand on the shoulders of some truly tremendous giants, spiritual giants, I would say, in the field. Doug Tiemann, of course, is a mentor and someone that has helped accelerate my career, somebody who believed in me from a very early point at my time at Caron. And then Dave Rotenberg, who is now the chief clinical officer. Father Bill Hookberg was our director of spiritual care at Caron for a long time. And, they just kind of took me in and helped me find my way just by allowing me to be there and be in recovery and look at my skill set, and they helped me sharpen it. And I found myself in development for a while. Caron's a nonprofit, so I did some fundraising for them and was just not afraid to ask people for money so that people could access quality care. And then found myself in the corporate director position, working with alumni and families, and just became incredibly passionate about giving back. The service part of my recovery service is really the cornerstone. And I learned very early on that you don't get to keep this if you don't give it away. And so I just did that. I just showed up, and that led me to Brookdale eventually. I came to visit an old friend, and he is he's the managing partner at Brookdale, just to visit and see the property and say hello and reconnect with him. Was driving down Back Mountain Road and saw this unbelievable, amazing, beautiful facility to the right, and really had to stop and think, is that a drug and alcohol treatment center? Went through the front and started connecting with not just the staff but some of the patients, and I realized that there was something special there. Not long after that, I met you, and you have certainly been an amazing mentor and partner and friend in this leadership team that we have at Brookdale. So I would say I'm blessed. I'm blessed. I've had so many people that have shown me the way, and have been tremendous examples of not just recovery, but ethical, quality treatment providers.
That's nice. Yeah, and I think people miss the boat sometimes, the value of good mentorship and having those kind of people in your life who can influence you. I look out, I see some people who were very instrumental in my world. Frank and I have been very tight, got a wonderful relationship with you. I go back over the years and I see all these great people who the good guys, that I often talk about that. I wonder how a guy like me ended up in a spot like this. But you hung around with the good guys, and the good guys hang around with each other, and they introduce you to their friends, and you learn a lot, and you I'm sad sometimes when people don't realize the opportunity you have when you can do that at somebody's knee, and good stuff. So thank you for that. It's good to know. So another question that came up was, the fentanyl has certainly changed, and heroin has changed dramatically the whole treatment world, and we're seeing more and more. Just about every substance that people are on, there's some traces at times of fentanyl in it, whether it be stimulants, marijuana, cocaine. They're using it as a cutting agent because it's cheap. Let's not make any mistake that it's not because it's a better high, it's because it's cheaper than everything. And the economics of fentanyl are very, very lucrative for those individuals who are engaged in the drug trade. So can you tell us a little bit, what, if anything, how has that impacted the inpatient treatment world or the world that you are involved in?
Mm-hmm. Well, I would say it's certainly created a sense of urgency to get people help. The fentanyl overdoses and heroin death rates, are staggering in this country, and I think, people have needed to get into care rather quickly because of the seriousness of those drugs. Mm-hmm. So, personally, I will say I've kind of grown up in this industry, and my own philosophy around how we treat those substance use disorders has changed. And I believe that we have a responsibility to help everybody find their way. And there is not a one-size-fits-all. And, I think people recover at different rates. And we have an opportunity at Brookdale to really, meet people where they are and then help guide them where they want to be. And that's not necessarily where I am or, where anyone else is. But there are many pathways to recovery, and I think we have, again, a responsibility to educate people about the various pathways. And, the opioid epidemic has created, again, that sense of urgency, and I think sometimes people forget that alcohol is still the #1 killer, especially in women. So it's a slower death, I think, sometimes, and there isn't quite that sense of urgency, but still important, and people need treatment for that as well.
Yeah, interesting enough, we were very intrigued when at the end of the year we sat down and looked at our numbers at Brookdale, and sure enough, alcohol was still our #1 drug of choice. That individuals coming in, that marijuana had dropped to number 4 or 5, but alcohol was still the #1, with narcotics to follow, and benzodiazepines. The real onslaught here of benzodiazepines, Xanax and Valium and Librium, and different things we're seeing here. On a policy standpoint, I mean, are we seeing anything different? Are you guys here in this world impacted at all by the fentanyl and the change?
Fentanyl and opioids, have definitely had a detrimental impact on our population. Fentanyl is just lethal, and so in our community, sadly, people are relapsing a lot of times. Fentanyl is the prime mover in that fatality. But I appreciate what Amy says in terms of meeting the patient where the patient is, and our philosophy is the same here. There are multiple pathways to recovery, and here I'm a product of 12-step recovery, and eventually found some success with that. But we have secular recovery here, smart recovery. We have medically assisted treatment modalities. We have co-occurring and meetings, and of course here at the Recovery Bank, we don't provide treatment. We've been really fortunate to have the support of course, Brookdale and some other regional inpatient facilities and outpatient treatment facilities. What we do here is try to act as a human bridge for people coming from whatever treatment, into the community of recovery. And as we've kind of moved forward, it's been important to meet patients where they are, right, and try to not necessarily bring them to whatever pathway we might be following. And we think we're gaining on that. Our philosophy is to try to get people to engage in some kind of recovery, to embrace recovery, and it's a challenge. Fentanyls and the opioids are stubborn foes, but we think with persistence we'll try to gain on it.
Yeah, the thing not to forget is that in the midst of the pandemic, we still have an epidemic. We had the highest numbers of overdose deaths to date, in the last calendar year, and but quietly that seems to be the issue. And I know that in our world, in the inpatient world, it's changed a lot of the way that we've had to do detox and the way we've had to approach people. Tends to be a longer detox, and the unfortunate part of it is, particularly for the young people, is that once they feel better, it's the ability to retain people in treatment and teach them some of the skill sets for relapse and post-acute withdrawal and things like that have become more and more difficult. That people that because the narcotic phase has been so short, people see the fact that, well, I don't need any more help, I'm not using anymore. Whereas traditionally for many years with alcohol, because alcohol is such a slow demon, that takes over people, that it's a little easier to keep people in treatment and show them the scope and severity of their addiction and see what's gone on. Some of these newer drugs and some of the methamphetamine, similar type of thing, it just decimates and devastates, and we're seeing more and more of those things coming out of the rural areas. So lots of changes, which is our segue, obviously always a good segue into the next couple of questions were to look at, where's this all going? The pandemic ends, we have treatment issues. The epidemic ends, we have treatment issues. The emergence of multiple pathways as a standard of care. How does treatment as we've traditionally seen it, maybe you guys can speak a little bit to where do you see that going? Where, as leaders in the field and executives, what do you see as where the field is going in terms of maybe embracing some new knowledge or technology, things like that, where we're at with that?
Well, I'm very passionate about research. I believe that if we have the science behind it and the research, and we invest in that the way we did, say, HIV and AIDS, I think we will, move this thing along a little quicker. And, not that we will recover at quicker rates, but I think we'll be able to treat people differently. We'll have more understanding of the disease, how it manifests itself, and the different approaches to treatment. So I would like, that's something that I feel very passionate about, continuing to educate people about the disease and helping them understand that, this is not a choice, and the stigma associated with it. I think, every time we do something like this, or we have something like the Recovery Bank, in our communities, we have an opportunity to educate people that may or may not have any connection to the disease. I haven't come across too many people that don't know, a loved one or someone who has been impacted by it. But I think the more we talk about it and the more open we are about our own recoveries, I think we have an opportunity to really help more people, essentially.
I think that, that what we're seeing is, especially with the opioids and fentanyl and drugs like that, that the divide or the disconnect with people seems to be wider and wider. And I just finished reading a book that my friend Frank provided to me. It's written by a professor at the University of Scranton about substance abuse disorder and all different phases and a lot of the science that goes with it. Part of the bottom line that he mentions in the book, and he actually quotes Johann Hari, H-A-R-I, who says that the opposite of addiction is not necessarily sobriety; it's connection.
Correct.
And that's what we try to do here. We don't do formalized treatment. We try to just help people, connect and try to pick them up where they are and help make that connection. That's been challenging through the pandemic, but I think we're gaining on it. We keep trying to add to our programming and add to our reach and try to inform people, of all the great resources that we have here, Brookdale and just the tremendous amount of help that exists. So we're very fortunate.
Yeah, I think that piece on stigma is important. There's not just stigma within the community, there's also stigmas within the recovery community. That we're not all sure what the other guy is doing is right, or if what didn't happen the way that we did it. And I think also in the treatment community, there's a lot of some of the different approaches and therapies. And I think I'm a big fan of "In God We Trust." All those big facts. What do the facts say? And one of the things that I know certainly as a provider is that the payers and the consumers, the folks who use this, or the patients, they want to see results. What are the results? And just because this works real well here, so maybe the interventions we take for the 64-year-old male who's on alcohol might be different than that for the 18-year-old girl, which would make sense. There may be different protocols that because so much of the business that we're in, so much of what we do is environmental. And I think the educating the people on what the environment, the impact of the world that you live in can happen. The old 12-step thing was people, places, and things, and so stigma really plays heavily into that. And I think, as Amy said, the ability to educate the community on addiction and what does it really look like, one of the things I'm often surprised about at our facility is people come in and say, wow, this is a really nice place. Well, it should be a nice place.
Yeah.
It should be some place where you feel comfortable enough to heal. If we took you into a hospital, we'd give you a nice bed and to help you heal. If you have you break your arm or break your leg and you have to go to the emergency room, people treat you nice and they treat you right. And I think the surprise of that certainly is waning, but also the stigma of the different variations of how we can get to the end result, which is another stigma. What is the end result? Is abstinence just the key, or is the restoration of joy the key? Is the restoration of enjoyment of life? So still a lot of questions out there. I'm sure we certainly can't answer those tonight, but good stuff certainly for another time. The business, the treatment industry or the treatment field, you're never really sure how to term it because we certainly don't want to offend anybody. The whole prevention world, which is a lot of it, is also undergoing some funding crisis. Is there anything you guys can maybe educate us on a little bit about where you see some of these funding sources, insurance companies, grants, state and local entities, where some of that stuff is going to go, or how that might impact the ability to provide the services? I know that the organization you came from had some pretty innovative stuff that they were doing with some insurance companies, showing them some evidence-based practices, which allowed a different approach from a reimbursement standpoint.
Well, I think from our perspective, we're not in the treatment business. We're in the recovery business. There has been a shift in thinking from a lot of the grant funders, both governmental and insurance funders, that the acute care model needs to be adapted a little bit more into the recovery-oriented system of care, so that treatment and recovery doesn't necessarily end when the patient leaves Brookdale or treatment facility. There needs to be a movement along the continuum of care, and I think funders are, at least from our end, are seeing the value in that, and we've been very fortunate with our grant process, I think largely because we've been able to demonstrate positive outcomes, and we work with with Brookdale all the time to try to improve the outcomes of our patients.
Yeah. Well, I had the opportunity working in a nonprofit, to be surrounded by some incredibly generous philanthropic people who weren't necessarily alums of the treatment center, but just were kind, generous people who really wanted to help. And they donated a lot of money to make sure that everybody has access to quality care. And I think, that's one of the most interesting things, I think, as a person in recovery that I've learned, even walking in here today, this beautiful building and the wonderful people that are here and the time that has been invested and the money that has been invested for this community. I mean, when you think about that, it's really touching. And, I feel very blessed that I've had the opportunity to be surrounded by people that are so generous. I am the recipient of somebody's generosity. I was in treatment for a very long time. It was very costly. And so giving back is certainly important to me, not just monetarily, but my time and service. And, one of the reasons I'm so open about my own recovery is to hopefully encourage somebody to give to somebody who might not have the ability to go to treatment. Mm-hmm. Treatment is just one piece of it for me. That's just one part of my recovery. And, for me, recovery is not just about the abstinence of the chemical. It's a way of life. It's about practicing the spiritual principles and really living a life that that many of you helped design for me and kind of paved the way. And I think really talking out about that will inspire more people to donate and to help us educate people about substance use disorders.
Yeah, I think the continuum of care is certainly vital and important that because addiction impacts so many areas, there's not an area of somebody's life that's not impacted
That's right.
by alcohol or drug use, that there's not an area that can't be impacted by recovery from it. And to have facilities like this that have those services, that most people, I spend most of my time simply directing people where to go. It's not a fixer job or anything. It's being able to connect people with services, and because it's a very complex system, there are many our inpatient world is prone to a lot of predator type individuals. You go online,
Yeah.
You think you're talking to somebody in Scranton, and you're talking to somebody in Florida or in California, and suddenly you're on a plane and you're going off to treatment. Not that that's a bad thing, and there are excellent facilities everywhere, but we know that home-based care is the closer to home the better. The more you can involve the family members, the more you can do all those things. And then research like places like Karen or Brookdale that put those numbers out there. What the insurance companies have come back and said is that, hey, we really want you to do this, and we know that these numbers work. There's a fallacy that says that treatment doesn't work. Treatment is incredibly effective. People would not pay for treatment if we had a 5% success rate, we wouldn't be able to stay in business. The insurance companies, the actuarials, the common sense, and the people on the street would say this doesn't work. There's enough evidence to say that we do things, and we do things very successfully. It's the ability to do that within a continuum that's going to continue to thrive, and recognizing the value of expanding certainly the recovery center type things, which now just about every county in eastern Pennsylvania is quickly putting in. I saw that the one just went in down in Northampton County. But now you have the ability to deal with one-stop shop, multiple things, which I don't know, I got sober 37 years ago. There was no, you didn't, first of all, it was frowned upon to even tell people that you were in recovery.
Right.
You kept that to yourself and the folks in the world that you were in, and these resources were in the basement. I can remember in the basement of the old state hospital, and you had to walk past the steam pipes and some of the other stuff to talk to the alcoholism counselor, Tony Pirro, who was one of the most wonderful men you would ever want to meet, and was incredibly compassionate and passionate about what he did. And, but that was it. That was all that we had. Church basements were that's where I remember my parish priest saying, if we could only get that kind of spirituality upstairs that you guys have downstairs. But, and it was a smoke-filled room, and it was a lot of that, but that's where it had to happen. And there weren't a lot of the opportunities because of the stigma. So that as we continue to move forward with that, I think I get pretty passionate about that stuff sometimes, as you can see. But And now I forgot the next question, but that's all right. We'll get it going. But where I see the next step then is then coming back with these evidence-based practices and these collaborative efforts amongst the varying organizations. We look here, we have veteran services, you have legal services, you have opportunities for volunteerism, you have opportunities to come together and grow. And in our world, that's huge. Because our folks come out of treatment incredibly frightened and incredibly scared, because this is such a different life. I've been away from any experience and the joy for so long. This is a whole different approach. So to have these kind of resources is really pretty amazing. So now the key is, how does this work? Is it working? Are we seeing better results of it? Because contrary to people's beliefs, the insurance company aren't the bad guys. They just, they're business. They want to see a bang for their buck. How do we know it works? Show us. Well, I think it does. We can't say that anymore. We've got to show them numbers. And across the board, across the country, when we've been able to do that, we've been able to secure the funding needed to provide the services, as evidenced by all of our presence here today. That we have this great facility that's going to be able to provide services. We have Brookdale, which is a great facility, providing great services. There's an influx of, and at Brookdale, we look to stay within 90 miles of our front door. The primary area that we want to serve is in our backyard. And our largest group of people come within 30 miles of the facility. And, so that's a testimony to where treatment, I think, is going and the types of services that we'll be able to provide. Did you have another question, Frank?
I guess the question I'll ask Amy, just to put her on the spot, as to how do you think that the recovery bank or just a recovery community center might work to enhance the work of Brookdale. Treatment works. Brookdale's a fabulous place. What could a recovery support center offer to your patients to help improve that outcome?
Well, it's the next step in the journey. I think a lot of times people think they go to treatment and they're done. That's just the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
We have the detox stabilization process, then we have, the therapeutic community and the clinical sophistication, and then they're discharged, and oftentimes we're sending them back into their communities or other communities for additional care, and we need people to catch them. And I was the benefactor of a lot of really amazing people that caught me, and I think that's one of the things that's really special about this place. There's something for everyone here, regardless of your pathway to recovery. And I think, when we went back into the art room back there, you said that a lot of the students that come here, they're not actually in recovery themselves. They just want to come here. And I think, we deserve to be around all people, not just recovering people. We certainly need them as well. But I think every community needs a recovery bank. And what a gift for Scranton that you have one, and a place for people to come to feel included and part of something, and it's not defined by maybe a 12-step program, something that's laid out for them, but they have options here. They have the ability to choose. And, recovery has provided me with the opportunity to connect with people that I never would have connected with otherwise. And, I thought about that as I was walking in here, and I saw the big vault, and thinking about the history of this space and the history that you're making here and creating here. I think every community could use something like this.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Amy.
Yeah.
That wasn't rehearsed at all. That's great.
I think, I think you bring up a good point. Maybe you can speak to, Brookdale is a former resort property, so
Right.
there are great opportunities for activities and recreation and things. What value does that add, or what types of services, A, do you have, and B, how does that add to the value of recovery? I mean, how is that not just these guys are hanging out, enjoying themselves while, instead of paying a price for their addiction?
Well, I think, the amenities and the facilities at Brookdale, they're beautiful. And it's not just the aesthetics, it's what goes on, within that beautiful space. we have every type of activity that you could imagine there, on the outside and the inside. And we use that as a clinical opportunity, to teach them how to do things and live, a life in recovery without the chemical. And, we have volleyball games and tennis matches, and they get to fish around the lake. And we have a rec center with yoga and Reiki and swimming pools, that give people the opportunity to get moving again. This disease, it is treatable. And I think the approach that we take, we allow people to come into this very beautiful space and maintain their dignity. I mean, you said it, people deserve to be in a space where, that's gorgeous in a dark time in their life. And then we take it a step further at Brookdale. We do the therapeutic stuff in the house, and then we have all these amazing opportunities outside the house. Opportunities, to get people to continue to connect. And I was also taught really early on in my recovery that the opposite of active addiction is not abstinence, it's connection to other human beings. And we're creating those opportunities multiple times a day for them. And, last week there were some staff out there playing volleyball with the patients, and the teacher in me was on the sidelines, and I was saying to the patients, you're changing your brain chemistry right now, and this is part of the therapeutic process. And some of them were like, really, that's so interesting, and others were like, don't ruin this for us, Amy. Just let us have fun. And they were having fun, and they were laughing, and they were interacting with one another. And I love that we have the opportunity. There's a lot of wildlife at Brookdale. And it's been very intriguing for me to watch patients connect with the swan, the geese. I understand in the summertime there are turtles and, of course, the fish, and just really seeing the light come back on for folks connecting with nature. We have this beautiful lake, and they walk around it, and they talk about recovery. They talk about where they are and where they want to be. And I really do watch people every day rebuild their lives and their dreams. And I think Brookdale gives people hope. And hope is, my favorite word in the English language. And I have the opportunity to kind of navigate through that 100 acres every day and watch hope come alive. And we, as recovering people, get to instill hope in others. And it's really a beautiful thing to watch.
One of the things, as we went down, I do interventions, and I have lots of contact with families, and they always have lots of questions. And so for a family whose question is, how can your service benefit my loved one? What, whether it be the recovery bank or what would we tell them? What would we say to family members who are looking for help, or how will your service benefit us? How's our alcoholic or our addict going to get better by being exposed to you guys?
Well, at Brookdale, the family is the patient, because we don't treat just the identified, addict or alcoholic. We treat the whole family. We have a family services department with some really talented people that connect with loved ones and family members, and we create opportunities for them to reconnect in a healthy way. We also educate them about the disease and how, they can support their loved one's recovery. And I think instinctually, especially parents, they want to fix or save their loved one, and we know that that's not really their role anymore. We want them to understand that, they can do things to support, but they also need to focus on their own recovery. One of the things I like to tell people is addiction is not a spectator sport. Eventually, everyone in the family gets to play. And I love that, we create an opportunity for the whole family to get well and to stay connected, and to participate in programming so that we can put the family back together, so that they can reconnect and live that life in recovery together as a family unit.
Kind of the same philosophy that we have here. We try to emphasize sober celebrations, sober activities where we involve the recovering alcoholic, the recovering addict, and their family members, and build a lot of our programming around reuniting that family, bringing that family together, and trying to, to continue to keep that hope alive and help people to kind of find their way to get their family back together. Particularly proud of the recovery walk that we did pre-COVID. It was the first recovery walk ever held in Lackawanna County. And we had pretty close to 400 people that participated in that. Walked right down Lackawanna Avenue, came here in front of the Recovery Bank. There were grandparents, spouses, children, and it was just a great thing to look out there and see that. So we're looking forward to doing that again this year, I hope.
Yeah, I think it's important. We always say that the family can screw up in 5 minutes what it takes the provider 5 months to put together, and part of that is because we go back to the old rules and the old ways, and the more education, more that the family can get, the better. And also that one of my favorite sayings is shame is contagious. The biggest thing for addicted people is they live in a world of shame, and usually pretty easily that can impact and influence just about everybody around them, and the shame can be very contagious. So important stuff to understand. So what would a typical day look like?
For me?
Yeah.
Busy. I am a very hands-on leader. I'm not somebody that likes to sit behind my desk and, peck at a computer. I like to interact with people. I like to connect. I like to be visible. I'm really proud of the executive team and the department heads at Brookdale because they're very visible. And, I like to go through the milieu several times a day to kind of see what's going on and connect with our patients, to hear what's working, what's not, interacting with staff. And then I think, that creates an opportunity for us to model recovery. We talk a lot about the parallel process in treatment centers, and as we go, they go. So really showing them how to have healthy connections with people. Obviously, we have meetings, and I'm not somebody that likes marathon meetings, but we meet because we need to. We develop strategies, and we talk about the clinical programming and case consults. And, I do a lot of the operational duties, if you will, at Brookdale. And I love that, and it gives me an opportunity to get out and see people and talk to people. And my favorite thing to do really throughout the day is to listen. To listen to the staff, to listen to the patients, to listen to them interact with one another. And, I try to create opportunities every single day to have moments with people where I can just sit and talk to somebody individually, whether it's in your office with you, getting some advisement, or with a patient out in the lobby who might look a little melancholy, just asking them what's going on with them. Because, if I know where they are, if they give me their GPS signal, I can help them get to where they need to be. And so, that's really a typical day. I would say we work long hours because we're passionate about the work that we do. But, we also try to create opportunities to have a kind of a balanced life. So because I work in treatment, that's not my recovery. I have to take care of myself after work. I have to continue to do the things that help me get here in the first place. I can't just stop that. So, and family is important to me, and I try to connect with them on a daily basis. And I'm engaged, and he works in the field also. So, creating time for him. So I would say long but busy days, and I wouldn't have it any other way. Yeah.
That's great.
We have a fabulous staff here at the Recovery Bank. We try to have our facility open in traditional and non-traditional hours. We're currently open 6 days a week. We open up about 8:30 in the morning, and we close 7:30 or 8 o'clock at night, 6 days a week, and we're looking to expand our recovery support services into Sundays. So we're busy, and my administrative work here is sometimes a grind. My favorite part of the job is I'm a certified recovery specialist too, and have the opportunity to, to talk with the participants here. It's the best. So look forward to that each day.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Well, guys, thanks so much. We got to be coming close to the hour. Is there any comments from anybody have any questions out there? Anybody? No? Okay.
John, I think that was great. I really want, Amy, it was so wonderful to meet you. We
Thank
look forward to
you.
working with you and,
Absolutely.
and continuing working with John and everybody at Brookdale. We're very, as you said, blessed.
Indeed.
We really are.
Thank you for having
Yeah,
me.
thank you. And
Thanks
thank
for
you,
having
ladies and gentlemen, for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.